Hey everyone! Today we're going to be talking about supporting characters. Now, supporting characters are characters that are important to the plot or the main character, but they are not the focus of the story. Now, this of course is different than background or minor characters and more significant than a cameo. Now, generally speaking, I usually kind of look at it as, they're the characters that are part of the main cast or part of the antagonist group of sphere of influence, but yet they are not specifically the focus of the story, nor are they minor enough that they are just almost background characters that have little influence on the overall plot. They are important enough to be noteworthy, to be characters that you would keep an eye on. And generally speaking, the supporting characters, they back up the protagonist or the antagonist. They are significant enough so that they may even have their own subplots. Usually, they'll add flavor to the story as in expanding the narrative and the character's own plot line. But they're usually in relation to the main character's role in the story rather than an independent narrative. Now, I find that with supporting characters, it's usually best to add them organically when possible. That their role in the story should feel natural, should come along with the natural story beat, rather than trying to arbitrarily force them in somewhere, or just to have them be, I guess, to add them as the story flow permits. Um, it's always noticeable when when a character is shoehorned in, or when they're just, they make a rush to introduce everybody at once or something. And usually I kind of like those stories where relationships evolve kind of like they do in life, where it's like you meet people, they sort of become important to you, and then you have experiences with them, and sometimes they stay in your life, sometimes they don't. And these are the little bits that make life interesting. So this is just as true for the story. Now, the more complex the story, the more supporting characters you may need. Now, I always kind of think that when I'm working up a story, it's like I have usually the main cast in mind. I usually like to have an idea of what role everybody's going to fit. And the main characters, they're usually driving the story either for or against whatever the objective is. The supporting characters, usually their role is kind of included as adjacent to the main character. They may have their own things going on, as mentioned earlier, but also what kind of determines at least a little bit how many supporting characters is the story complexity. If you're talking about a fairly straightforward relationship between two characters, you may not have as many as if it's like a global world spanning epic, or if it's got multiple plot lines. And in cases like that, the more complex the story, the more supporting characters you'll need. Now, in the event when I have had to introduce groups of characters that fill in the plot line, you have to make sure that there's enough to provide a suitable population, but not so many that you have a long list of just names and details. The appearance of any supporting character should be justified at least by a basic function. For example, say that your character meets a group of pirates. Well, odds are they'll probably need a captain, they'll probably need a second in command, maybe at least one or two characters to fill out the function of the crew. And beyond that, they would be minor characters. If you have room for more, or if your story is based on a pirate character, then you may have more of them. But ideally, most of the supporting characters should at least have some sort of function that you can point to as far as why they're involved in the story. And if you have like 30 of them, odds are that a good half of them probably are going to be what I would consider minor characters, where their role is not story essential, that they are potentially interchangeable, and also that they don't necessarily have enough to contribute to the story to really warrant the title of supporting character. I think that all supporting characters should have an independent voice, that you should be able to tell when they're talking or what their interest is, that they are different from the other supporting characters in the group. Um, that it should be clear whenever anybody's speaking or whenever something gets raised in conversation, who would be the one to raise that concern, because they would either have the background experience or it would be their field of expertise, something along those lines. And I think that a lot of supporting characters, they are reflective of the main character's choices, decisions, or emotions, and they will reflect that information back to them so that they can sort of, see what they're doing through external viewpoints. And this is not to say that supporting characters just exist to reflect the main character's decisions, but it's kind of like any time you have a group of friends, they're going to be able to give you an objective opinion on what you say, what you do, how you're behaving. And you may not always want to hear it, but usually it provides some interesting background, some relevant details, some flavor to a story. And I would also say that in general, the supporting characters are probably the most important people in your character's life. Like any, we're all the main protagonist of our own story. And all of the people that you keep around you, it's like the ones you spend the most time with, those are your supporting characters. And so so it is true in shows and stories. It's like whoever your main character chooses to associate with on a regular basis, those are their supporting characters. And I tend to think that the supporting characters are an essential part of a good story, that you want to make sure that they have enough three-dimensionalness to them, that they're organic, that they belong here, that they feel like they add to the tale, and they give you a lot of flexibility when telling your story. So be sure to think about it. Be sure to give them a lot of world building details, and make sure that they add to your overall narrative and enrich your main character's story and his life in general, his or her life. And that's it for supporting characters. So thank you for listening.
If you like werewolves, check out my book Blue Moon, available in paperback and ebook on Amazon.
Thanks for watching, and if you liked it, click the subscribe button and leave a comment below. You can also find me on Twitter and a few other places on the web, or support me via Patreon or Ko-fi. Zebra hugs!